Test, test.
All right. Mr. Ryan Jones, is there anything to report from our closed session at this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the council is going to resume closed session after this meeting, so we'll make the reporting out at the culmination of that.
All right, very good. First item is Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, God, divine, higher power, when we gather again to govern, may we do it with humility, with integrity, compassion, and consideration for all the good people of this community. And Lord, as we do that, we also pause for a moment of remembrance for a good human being, a wonderful member of this community, someone who gave and lived all those values of integrity and compassion and honesty and impact. We acknowledge the judge as well. Amen.
Amen.
All right, do we have any changes to the agenda, Mr. Flora?
Yes, we do. Item number 2, presentation of proclamation in remembrance of Judge Freeborn. Judge Freeborn's wife is sick, and so she isn't able to come tonight, so we're going to be delaying that until the January meeting. So we remove that one, and then one more. Let me get the number here. Item number 25 related to sphere of influence and annexation. I had a meeting this week with
Mr. Flora,
yeah.
they're not hearing you in the back. I don't know if your mic might not be on.
Well, yeah, the mic's on. I don't know if there's any issues with the system, but they're still a little doing a little bit of work on what that project is going to look like. And so I think at this time, it's best for us to kind of put a pause on this project. So I'd like to just go ahead and pull item 25 off the agenda for tonight.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda with those changes?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the adoption of the agenda with as modified.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilwoman Overton. Voting. Oh, there we go.
Aye.
Aye. All right, there we go.
Yay.
So, Council Clark is. I don't know.
Motion passes with all in favor.
All right, number 3 on the agenda is presentation to city employees and volunteers in recognition to their service. Sharon and John Wynn come forward, Mike Mello, Ross Martus, Dorothy Turner, Johnny Burr, Gary Olatena, Benny Carter, Marty Foltz, and Carol Machini, and Elizabeth Kelly. We have employees 5 years, Officer Brittany Shores. Maintenance worker Alex Martinez. Alex. Code enforcement technician Jan Verska. And Public Works Superintendent Bo Clymer, Sergeant Brian Peterson, and Public Works Director Adeline. What? Leyba? Okay. And Lieutenant Martin Snyder. That's some. Thank you all for your services. First of all, it's an honor to be able to congratulate you on your service here. Let me see if I can find the right certificates here, since there are quite a few. Maybe you can. All right. This presentation is a certificate of appreciation presented for grateful recognition of valuable time and effort. The City Council of the City of Clearlake extends a thank you and honor for your generosity to the community and your hard work. Thank you very much. And we have some. Thank you. 5 years. That's Alex. All right. And Bo, there you go. 20 years. I like Clearlake. You go, Addie. Thank you very much. And again, congratulations on your new position. Thank you.
If I could just make a quick comment about Adeline, specifically because she's one of my department heads. Adeline started with the city actually on my birthday in 2007. She didn't know how significant that was going to be until much later, but she started as an office assistant and worked her way up through the organization. And, it's certainly one of our most trustworthy and diligent employees. And it just makes me really proud that now she's one of our department heads. So thank you, Adeline.
Right, we go to presentations of public works maintenance project.
Mayor, members of the council, I'll probably start this off. I was fortunate enough for a short stint to serve as your interim public works director. And wanted to say thank you, first of all, to the city council for allowing me to do that, for Alan and his support and helping me at that position. The city hall staff was amazing at the amount of support that I received while serving in that position. I want to say thanks to Chief White, Bo, Adeline, and in particular, the biggest thanks I have is to those gentlemen right back there, most of which are dressed in yellow. That's an amazing group of guys that I never realized what an asset you had until I got to know them. I was kind of mind blown. And one of the reasons I was mind blown is because I think there wasn't a clear and really great leadership for them for a while. And those guys went about and did their job. no, I don't think anybody ever really knew. Ooh, here we go. Scared me. So those guys, they were doing their job without that really clear direction and, what I would consider a bit of a lack of leadership, and it shows a lot of integrity of what your staff back there is. The other thing I was kind of mind blown about is your city is 10.58 square miles, and it's pretty spread out, and it's a large landmass area. Your entire city is cared for by those guys. That's it. Those are the guys that care for the entire 10.58 square miles of this community. That's a lot, considering that you have a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys and a lot of things to take care of. So again, it was kind of mind blowing. Second thing, this is kind of my parting thing I wanted to do. And when I want to change how public works, or I wanted to change, I'm hopeful that Adeline will continue that, have the public works perception and how we present ourselves to the city, right? We're responsible as public works, right? When you think of the city and you think of essential services, you think of police and fire. That's kind of, what people tend to think of. I don't blame them. I mean, that they should, but public works, it really should be police, fire, and public works. And I really want to work, I hope Adeline does work to change that, because public works is kind of like the background. If you think about a computer, you're running your computer programs and your computer support programs, the upfront stuff on your screen, that's your police and your fire. But the stuff that makes that run, your background information, your background infrastructure, that's your public works department. The city doesn't run without them. They are equally essential. And I wanted to make that known, and hopefully we can progress with that. So, I also wanted to just have the public works guys. I don't know if how many of them you've all met. Here they are. You're going to meet them tonight. So they deserve recognition, and they're all good guys. I wanted to have you, Bo's going to talk about some of their duties that they do and what they do for the city. There's a lot of things that probably don't realize. Obviously, to provide some recognition. One of the things that, again, I was mind blown about is Bo Weimer. Again, there was a bit of lack of direction for a while, and Bo kind of stepped in, and nobody really told him that I know of, like, these are your duties. He just stepped in, and when I saw the balancing act of duties and things that he was doing, it was pretty mind blowing. And when Adeline assumed the position, she's like, holy cow, there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of things up in the air. So, I wanted to, I'll be introducing Bo here in a moment, and then later on, I want to formally introduce the Public Works Director, the new one, and that's Adeline. But with that, I'd like to turn this over to Bo. He's going to be talking about the next several slides, going to introduce the team and kind of go over some of their accomplishments. It's rightfully so. He should do that because he's responsible for it, and he should get all of the credit for it. So, Bo, with that, why don't you just come sit here? Sure.
Thank you, Dave. I can guarantee I won't be quite as well spoken or smooth, but I'm going to give it a shot. Just going to start off introducing the crew. You guys, nobody has to stand up or speak or come up and speak, but I would like, as I call your name, I'd like you guys to stand up so the council can get a name with the face. Jose Valencia is our roads lead worker. Been with the city for about 3 years. He worked here previously on a work program and has been just outstanding. Spends a lot of time on his own researching and trying to improve his skills operating equipment. Adam Hernandez, been here about a year. He came from the Vegas area. Has stepped into his role with the Parks Department and again excelled really well. Robert Viramontes is not here. He's a senior maintenance worker with the roads crew. Tyler Beach, He's been with us for 3 years, another young guy that came up from a maintenance too, gained his CDL with us and has been just outstanding. Jose Mendoza, senior maintenance worker. He's been with us for 6 years. He just got his plaque, I think, a month or so ago. Wide breadth of knowledge. He's been around longer than anybody else on the crew. So appreciate his work. Cody, he's a pretty new guy with us. Came from Canocti Water, Highlands Water. Been with us about a year. He's making phone calls and doing stuff for us when we need help with different fittings and things like that for our irrigation. So, and congratulations on the new baby. Thanks, Dave. Felipe, senior maintenance worker, has been with us for 2 years. He was with us for a period of time and then kind of took a hiatus. And when he showed back up in the area, I jumped at the opportunity to bring him back. He's a heck of a worker and lots of experience driving. Alex, maintenance worker 3, has been with us for 5 years. Just recently moved from the Parks Department to the roads to gain some knowledge about another side of the house. So been great. This whole group is just absolutely outstanding. I've not worked with a better group of human beings in my life. Guys will bend over backwards and do whatever needs to be done, and nobody else that I know comes together as a team to get things done like this group of human beings in the back. Federico, maintenance worker 2, been with us for a couple of years. He's drives Adam nuts, but is very, very knowledgeable on the irrigation and has been a big help in the Parks Department. Terry Earhart, he's been with the parks for about 5 years, another asset, lots of knowledge there about the parks. And Patrick Porterfield, our resident safety guy, make sure he's stopped me before entering work zones to make sure that I've got my hard hat and my safety vest on. So appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you, Patrick. Again, I can't speak highly enough about this group of people. They're truly a team back there. We've been through a lot kind of as a crew. We've grown, and I'm really excited. I was just speaking to one of the guys earlier, really excited about the future of Public Works and this group of people in the back moving forward. So I'm going to move on. That's the team. This is your city council. So I'm going to go over some high points of what exactly we do here. We grade and maintain city roads, approximately 120 miles in the city limits. Remove debris from city streets, canals, and drainages. We remove vegetation, overgrown vegetation on city properties and right-of-ways. We complete and fulfill work requests, maintain the parks, senior center grounds, city hall grounds, maintain and install street signs, street lights and traffic signals, maintain and or support fire department with traffic control and the use of the water tender. All 4 fires we've had here that have been ongoing this year. We assist code enforcement with cleanups, doing red tags, pretty much anything they need. We support the police department for traffic accidents, cleanups, traffic control, and things of that nature. And we provide and support and logistics for all of the city sponsored events. 4th of July, all of the barricades that get moved around, any parade that we have, including Saturday, we do the traffic control, and we pretty much provide manpower for everything that goes on here. Some of the things we've done, the chip seal projects, we graded about a total of 13 miles with that. In order to chip seal the roads requires grading, and we took that portion of the chip seal process in-house. So we've got involved in that in grading in general. We have to transport via trailers our equipment to the job site, our roller primarily. Bring our grader in, the water truck, any tree trimming equipment, unless we've been out there prior, which we often do, go out ahead and get the trees trimmed back. And we have to provide traffic control. We've done the Austin Park and the Promenade, maintaining that and trying to get it up to a good high standard. And we also have done some additional grading this season. Sonoma Way, if you guys are familiar, it goes between Burns Valley and help me out here.
Woodland.
Woodland, yeah. And it has never seen a grader, to my knowledge, ever. And it's one of our streets. So that was like a week-long project and a couple of planning meetings with the crew to kind of figure out how we were going to manage it. And we got it done. So the grading requires a minimum of 6 people to conduct. And with that, I will turn it back over to Dave.
I have to say, Bo, you did a great job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Presentation. Yeah. And it worked through the year.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out, in addition to, all the things that the Public Works Department does, one of the things that they do is they allow the city to do much, much larger projects than they would normally be able to do. And I just wanted to give you an example. We kind of highlighted there, but I really wanted to highlight it. And I wanted to give you a example that's all present in our thinking. That is like this year's chip seal project. So in order to do a chip seal project, there's a lot of preparatory work that Bo covered in items numbers 1 through 6. Getting that road prepped, it's like painting a house. I mean, shooting the paint on, that's the fun part. But all the prep work. So when you pay a painter to paint a house, you're really paying a painter mostly to prep a house and shoot paint on it. And that's the same thing with a chip seal. So we would estimate that on the chip seal project, just an offsetting of cost, including what you paid the employees' salaries and benefits and everything. You did a project that you observed, I don't know if you would want to call it a savings, or you were able to do $800,000 more work, but there's an $800,000 balance there that you would have paid out had you not had the Public Works crew with their knowledge to go out there and do that chip seal project. It's kind of unique for a city the size of Clearlake to be able to tackle that. I mean, you might expect that from a larger municipality, but that's pretty unique. And I just wanted to highlight that. And there's a lot of examples. That's a really important one. So, that chip seal project either would have been way smaller or would have been twice as much money any way you slice that pie. And I think Adeline's got some more things she'll talk about that with her presentation. I wanted to move on to something. There's some examples of some of the cleanup, and that's the cleanup in Burns Valley Creek there, where we have some local residents living that needed to be removed. What's the next one here? So that's the guys setting some of the K-rails at various locations. We use them all over the place for any variety of things. And then some storm drain installation. I think that was over by Golden. Yeah, or was that by Golden State Water? Yeah, so over by Golden State Water, you may remember there used to be a pond over there the size of small Clearlake, right as you turn off of Olympic, and we put a storm drain line in that and installed that. What's our next one? Of course, the ongoing graffiti removal. That's like laundry. It happens every week, and Adam and his crew are on it. And we're always grateful for a lot of staff helping us target that and get that graffiti removed. And then got the backhoe, so removing some debris removal there. Then some culvert installations. A lot of times when we do these chip seal projects, if we have a location where we can put a culvert pipe in to enhance drainage to protect our improvements. And then on the right-hand side, you see some of the road grading going on. The city's got some really great equipment, road graders, rollers, and dump trucks, water trucks, all in very, very good shape. And all under a really good maintenance program under Bo's direction. So just wanted to kind of bring some of those things to light as well. And then one of the things that wanted to talk about the iWork system. I don't know what council knows about the iWork system or the general public knows about it, but you can go onto the city's website if you have an issue or complaint, or if you notice something. Let's say you're driving and you see a stop sign down. You can go onto the city's website. They have a reporting system, and you can say at the intersection of Old Highway 53 and Lakeshore Boulevard, there's a stop sign down. And that immediately goes to city staff here. And we work on those work requests often. We use them, you know, if we don't have say a full crew to staff for grading or during the slower times, and we really take these jobs, and we field, I don't know how many iWork requests we filled during the course of a year. Any guess? 100, 200? At least 100 iWork requests. So it's a really great system. What it does is it allows us to track complaints or concerns, address them, and then close them out and keep a written log. And I just think it's a great system. I wanted to bring it to light because that way the public knows it's there, and it helps us. I mean, when we have these, when people notice things around town, we don't always know us, and so it's a help to us. And so, with that, I had the pleasure of working with Adeline for the last 4 years, and I wanted to get a chance to introduce her as your new Public Works Director. It has been when Alan and I met and talked about having her become the Public Works Director. It was a natural. I'll tell you, being in this for 30 years in municipal type work, one of the key facets is having staff members who are going to stay. It is of utmost importance. Adeline is local, Bo's local, those guys are local, and a key position like a Public Works Director, you can't really afford to have somebody moving through town every year and a half. It's just too hard to gain any continuity, and their concerns are probably not your concerns as a city council, I would venture. So, that's why I think it's so important. So anyway, I want to introduce Adeline, and she's got a few things to say, and she's got some ideas, and I'll turn over to her, and congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, so before I begin, I wanted to give thanks to a few people who have mentored me along the way in my role as construction manager and inspector, beginning with Dave. He's helped me a lot with some engineering tutoring, and Gene Harris, who has helped me in the construction management portion. Steve Phillips from Special Districts, who taught me a lot of things about inspection, and Ellen for giving me the opportunity to fulfill this position. So goals for the Public Works Department in the upcoming year and beyond. I would like to transition to our new Public Works yard. We are in the process of doing that now. We should be beginning our moves mid-December and hopefully continuing to make our way there permanently. Implement an inventory management system for all equipment and assets. Streamline process for improving day-to-day operations and projects and improving efficiency. Develop a matrix for management and measurement of efficiency. And for our staff, I would like to start getting them trained more to develop the necessary skills to keep costs down by doing work in-house versus outsourcing, such as striping along the city, maybe some chip sealing in the future. I'd also like to develop a proactive approach to responses versus putting out fires. Hopefully by becoming more organized and streamlining our processes, we won't have to react as much. And I would also like to build a coalition between Public Works and City Hall so they don't feel like they're just the guys out in Public Works in the streets. With that.
Thank you, Addie. You're filling right in there, and we're very happy about that. I think Vice Mayor Purdock, you have a
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. Thank you all so much. I know when law enforcement calls because there's a road flooded or a tree down, they stand there in direct traffic until you guys show up. And that often happens in the middle of the night and on wickedly stormy nights and things like that. And same with the fire department. But I'd also like to recognize and thank the voters for the city of Clearlake who passed Measure V and made this possible. When I got elected a few years ago, in 2014, I believe it was, Bruno, we had a couple of guys and they were really just trying to keep Band-Aids on things. But this has really developed into a great program. Adeline, I'm glad to see you at the helm. And again, just want to recognize that and thank the voters for the city of Clearlake for making this possible through Measure V and trusting. And I hear that out in the community. People see all the work that's going on. They see the improvements in our streets. And that takes away that element of distrust when they see that their tax dollars are going for the things that they voted for. So thank you all very much.
All right. Just a quick note, I know that there might be people here that came for the proclamation for Judge Freeborn. It will be, like Alan said, rescheduled for our first meeting in January, which is January 5th. Okay, so please come back. All right, we go to public comment. This is a time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought before under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anybody in the room here that wants to address the council? Please come up to the microphone, ma'am.
Hello, my name's Patty Duke. I live at 4950 Spruce Street, and I moved here in 2007, worked at the hospital from 2003 to 2009. And nothing really changed in the city until he came, Chief White. If you knew somebody, things got done. Good old boys and girls. It has improved, and I've just seen so much happen. And I heard a rumor that you were leaving. And that's what brought me here. It's like, oh my God. Okay, so I hope that we keep moving forward and helping one another, no matter who you know or don't know. Thank you. I want to thank you and the department. And the most important thing for the department is to stay visible. That's what keeps people kind of dampened down in their things that they shouldn't be doing. And who's cleaning up all the trash? That's what really is so sad, is people dumping trash on the highway. And I see crews out there, and thank God. But it's just disheartening to see that happen. And I wish I had a GoPro camera for the people that are going over the double yellow, because that's becoming too often, especially on the freeways, on the highways around the whole county. It's scary, very scary. So I wish I had a GoPro. I really do. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other person that wants to address the council? Please move to the microphone, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Margaret Garcia. I live at 14208 Ewell Avenue, real close. And one of the things I wanted to say, and what brought me here, was to wish the chief great luck in his new position in Martinez. I've only been here a couple of years, but I know that you've done, really great things, positive things for the city. And so I want to really wish you the best of luck going forward. In addition, I'm really enthused by the public works and their interest in accountability, efficiency. I have to say, I like the female blood in there, because I think females do a really good job in general. I also wish they would have stayed, but I really appreciate the Public Works Department and what they do. And I also appreciate the diversity within the department. I wanted to kind of make note of that. Other than that, I'm just curious as to the airport project. And I've heard rumor that it's not moving forward. I'm curious if someone could fill me in a little on that, or is there any possibility?
Not at this point, ma'am. That under public comment, we cannot.
Okay, so should I follow up with Alan? Like say during the
Sure.
week?
Alan knows how not to talk either. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So is that, you're cutting me off there, Mayor? or
No,
what?
no, no, I'm not cutting you off.
Just checking. So anyway, Alan, I'd like to get some more information. Also on the paving, I live on Ewell and I live on the one little stretch that didn't get paved. So I kind of wanted to ask you about that. And as a note, there are so many streets in Clearlake that have never seen a grader. So Sonoma Avenue, I guess, popped out, but there are countless streets that have never seen a grader. So just wanted to make a point of that.
Great, thank you.
Am I 3 minutes up?
I don't know. We don't keep really time though.
I
they're
seem to
keeping
always
time.
get cut off by you, Mayor. All right, well, listen, I appreciate your time. Good luck to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Do we have anybody on Zoom for public comment? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a comment, because a couple of public members mentioned Chief White leaving. So just in case you don't stay for the whole time or look at the news, but we're going to have a reception and transition of leadership on December 19th here at City Hall between 4 and 6 p.m. So you're welcome to come back and have a chance to share your good wishes with Chief White.
Thank you for that. If there are no other comments, we'll go to item number H on the agenda, consent agenda. Anybody wants to pull an item on that, please let me know. If not, anybody from the public wants to pull an item on that. If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
And I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Purdock and a second by Councilman Kramer. Go to our electronic voting.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go to item number 22, public hearing. Confirm assessments of the total amount of $29,383.90 for city-funded abatement in accordance with the Clearlake Municipal Code. Mr. Flora.
Mr. Lambert will present the staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is a public hearing to confirm assessments for delinquent abatement costs. The purpose of this hearing is to consider and act upon any and all appeals of proposed special assessments. Upon consideration of the evidence and testimony, council may grant the appeal and adopt a resolution to deny or amend the assessment, or deny the appeal and adopt the resolution upholding the assessment for abatement of real property. Some pre-hearing information. Inspection and abatement warrants were issued by a judge of the Lake County Superior Court for the properties located at 14095 and 14101 Villa Way. An order of summary abatement was issued by the city manager for the property located at 14775 Highlands Way. And I'll explain that. You probably haven't heard of a summary abatement or not real familiar with it. I'll go and explain that a little when we get to that property. The city of Clearlake contracted with Resource Environmental Incorporated for the abatement of real properties at 14095 and 14101 Villa Way. And code enforcement staff performed the abatement at 14775 Highlands Way by boarding up the dwelling structure. Property owners were invoiced for the cost of said abatements. Property owners also failed to remit payment for the cost of those abatements. Attached to the staff report is the proposed resolution confirming assessments and statement of expenses. Staff recommends that council confirm all assessments as proposed. The mayor shall read the resolution by title only. A roll call vote shall follow the reading of the resolution. I've provided you guys a copy of all the documents up there in a binder if you want to review them, and also photographs. So property 1 is 14095 Villa Way. The owner is Palermo Drive LLC, and the assessment amount is $14,740. This was before the abatement. And that's cleared. The second property is 14101 Villa Way. The owner is Anthony Lintiaco. The assessment amount is $13,540. And the last property is 14775 Highlands Way. The deceased owner is Frank Willis. The assessment amount is $1,103.90. What we did there, that's been an ongoing nuisance property for several years. It's been a red tagged single wide mobile home. There's ongoing criminal activity there all the time. What led to the authorization of the summary abatement was there was a crime that occurred on a weekend that resulted in great bodily harm due to squatters staying in the red tagged house. So through the chief contacting Alan authorized the summary abatement. Now the summary abatement basically only clears the emergency situation, which was occupying the red tag structure. It wasn't all the garbage or anything else like that, which you'll see in the photos. We are moving forward with actually demolishing that entire property. But in its current state, without a warrant to do that, we couldn't do that. We could only do the summary abatement on the immediate concerns. So that's basically what a summary abatement is. It's to immediately resolve the immediate hazards. Oh, I don't need to, as long as council's seen them.
All right, do you have any questions from staff?
No.
No, we open to the public. Any public comment on this item? If not, we'll bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-65 and read it by title only. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake confirming special assessments and approving liens against real properties located at 14095 Villa Way, 14101 Villa Way, and 14775 Highlands Way for the cost of abatements in accordance with Chapter 10 of the Clearlake Municipal Code.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Claffey.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
All right, we go to item number 23, discussion and direction regarding legal non-conforming status of residents in the Sulphur Fire area. Mr. Flora.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members. So I brought this up at a previous meeting and asked if you're interested in talking about this. So as you know, the Sulphur Fire happened in 2017. There's been a fairly small percentage of homes that have been rebuilt since that disaster. At the time, the city's policy was to allow rebuilding of homes lost as a result of that disaster, sort of as they were originally constructed. And as you know, there's kind of a with the size of the lots and proximity to the roadway and other things, there's various issues with some of those properties that make it difficult to construct a home that conforms with the sort of more contemporary zoning standards that we have. There's, mainly it's more, there's some setback issues in some cases. One common one is a lot of those homes didn't have a garage originally because of lot size or whatever the reason may be. And it's very difficult to be able to construct one that is part of our requirements now. And so you have the policy in the staff report. I won't go through all the details unless you have any questions, but there was the allowance at the time to give folks like up to a 15-month window from the disaster, basically on a case-by-case basis, to have some of those current requirements waived if it was consistent with what was there originally. And so there were, a pretty small number of folks that took advantage of that. But I think through that window, there were maybe less than 15 or 20 homes that were actually rebuilt. There's been a lot of difficulty with folks. I mean, of course, you're all aware of the issues with underinsured property owners and so forth at the time. Some insurance payments have been slow to come in. A lot of homeowners have been expecting settlement funds, which are owed to them from PG&E, but that full payment hasn't been made yet. I think a small number of funds have came out, but we've been getting more and more inquiries about whether something like this was allowable now, because there's more folks that are starting to look at building, replacing the homes that they had before the disaster. And so I wanted to bring that back. I'd actually thought that there were going to be a couple of homeowners that had requested this be here tonight. It doesn't look like any of them are. But, basically what we're requesting is giving direction to me whether you're interested in me looking at this on a case-by-case basis, and granting some exceptions. I would like to have a specific period of time that this would be allowed again, if it's something you're interested in. So that's kind of the overview, and then I'll try to address any questions you have.
Councilwoman Overton.
Yeah, I just happened to talk to somebody today that had their house burned, and they had a hard time with construction with a contractor, getting a contractor. And so after all this time, they finally did get their house. They had that garage underneath their house, but they're just really starting to work on finishing up things after all of this time. I've been kind of following the process of what they've been going through. So I kind of think there's an understanding there. It's not only just maybe they didn't have the money or they're waiting for the settlement, but it's also the contractors. They've been having a hard time getting contractors to kind of be there and get the job done. They come do a little bit, they go someplace else. And so I know, just watching this one and how they've been going through the whole process, I have a feeling that some of them probably had a lot of that too. It's finding the contractors and stuff to stay with it and just get the job done. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Comments, questions? Just from there are some areas that I've talked to some of the neighbors in the area that I live that say that they haven't got any money from PG&E, and that's the reason. I mean, they probably didn't have insurance to start with, so I'm in favor to extend this on a case-by-case basis.
I would agree with that, with your comments specifically. I know of some PG&E settlements that have just recently been made as well. It's held these up. So I have no problem with a case-by-case review of some of these properties.
Councilman Claffey.
Yeah, I want to, so I'm clear on a case-by-case basis, what would be the determining factor to not allow someone to build?
Well, I mean, it's hard to envision all of the requests that you end up getting, but I mean, there's certain things where, I mean, we've had some property owners. So, for example, that have tried to live in an RV on their vacant piece of property for an extended period of time. And the way our zoning ordinance allows that if you have an active building permit, you can also potentially get a temporary permit to live in an RV while you're constructing your house, but that has a time limit on it. And this would not involve allowing people to do that on a long-term basis. I think the way I look at it, I would like to continue to see it interpreted pretty narrowly. I think that, there's a lot of things that you could get into to, make the costs a little bit cheaper or whatever. But, I think the intent of the zoning ordinance still needs to be there, but there really are some limitations with lot size and those type of things that just make it almost impossible for people to build their house back. So if they have the resources, I think we should work with them a little bit of flexibility on making sure that that's still the case. Now, we're not going to allow someone to build a house 5 feet from the front property line if we think that it's going to constitute a traffic hazard and create a visibility problem on the roadway, those type of things. It's kind of difficult to get your arms around all of them. But, if you directed me to do this, it would be a pretty narrow interpretation on a case by case basis and not creating this situation where all of a sudden, people are building 2 feet from their property line and all that type of thing. I don't think that's appropriate either.
Vice Mayor Purdue.
Yeah, I support this and I want to thank you for bringing it forward. I live in a neighborhood that was devastated by the sulfur fire and actually lost a property myself. Insurance didn't cover it, especially with the increased cost in building. As Councilmember Overton pointed out, there just aren't enough contractors that can help people rebuild. But in another note, I'm also very aware of non-conforming lot sizes, 100 by 25 lots. Some that would require almost a zero setback because the properties would, if they needed to build back, would build back. So I do appreciate your taking that on. I know you've got more than enough on your plate, but I'm sure you'll be working with planning to do that, just to try to help these folks navigate that. And they didn't get permits to rebuild, and they have been living in RVs for over 5 years, or trying to make that work. And it's problematic, to say the least. So thank you.
All right. Open it to the public. Any public comments on this item? If not in the room, Mr. Sabatier.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Bruno Sabatier, City. You don't want me to talk. City of Clearlake. I appreciate the conversation because housing is so important. And the last thing we want to see is people not be able to rebuild because of the type of house that they had before. I remember going through there before the sulfur fire. Houses were on one on top of the other, hence some of the issues from the sulfur fire going through there is they were such close proximity already. So there's definitely some issues to align with the new code and the new recommendations from the city. PG&E has done a preliminary payment. Nobody knows when the next payment is, but I would advise the council to try to set your timeline based on when PG&E does provide those payments. If people are waiting, then you may offer something that can't be used. Just trying to navigate through if people are waiting for those funds to be able to rebuild, that may be utilizing some of those timelines, as long as, and I see Vice Mayor laughing at me, as long as the timeline is not out of control and 5 years from now.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Sabatier, I appreciate your comments. Trust me, I'm one of those that's asking our fire attorneys, when disbursements will be made, and the arbitrator for the trust fund, the judge in charge of that. It's all based off of stock market pricing for PG&E and when they can liquidate some of the stocks that were held for this purpose, and they can't give it a timeline at all. So it's difficult.
And I believe right now people are being given a choice between take the small amount that they're offering today or request another review.
Take your chances.
For the chances of a bigger payment in the long run. Yes. So we shall see.
Or not. And I know that some folks have received initial payment. Others are just being contacted now. So yeah, it's quite a protracted process.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Appreciate your
comments.
comment. Any other comments in the council chamber? If not, are there anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There is a hand raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead on Zoom.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi, this is Elizabeth with Lake County News. Can you hear me?
Yes, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. I was curious, are there, does planning staff have an idea of how many rebuild projects are in the pipeline? I think Mr. Flores said it was 15 to 20 had been rebuilt, but are there actually more waiting to rebuild? And is, just to understand the PG&E Fire Fund, are all of the property owners in the area entitled to funds? And are you getting indications that they're waiting on those funds to rebuild? And the last question is, do you have an idea of how many of the properties are non-conforming? Is it all of them, or is it a portion of them that are non-conforming in the fire area? Thank you.
Maybe you can answer that, Mr.
Well,
Flores.
I can, there's a lot of questions there,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, but I
Sorry
can
about
answer
that.
some of them. That's okay. So, you know, I had intended to try to get numbers on what had been rebuilt. I know over the last couple of years, there's been quite a few more that have been rebuilt. So I'm not exactly sure where we're at. I don't have any detailed information on how many of them are eligible for PG&E funds or exactly how that works. So I can't answer that question. And, you know, as far as the number of people that would be affected by this, I mean, there's still going to be lots that probably had a house on them that probably aren't going to be built on again. You know, when you have a 25 by 100 lot, it never made sense. And so, you know, I really expect that we're going to be benefiting, you know, maybe a dozen people or something like that by the time this is over. I don't expect it to be 50 or 100 people, to be honest with you. But, you know, for those folks, it could be extremely important. So when we talk a little about timing, I don't really know what to say there. Perhaps we could kind of agree to look at this if the council has consensus on it, you know, for a 12-month period, and we just kind of review it each year on whether we think there's a continued need.
I agree with that. 12 months, and then we'll look at it again. Is that consensus from the council?
Yes.
Like it?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay,
Any
we have-
public comments?
Do we have any additional public comment, or bring it back to the council then? If not, I think we've kind of discussed it.
I'll support a 12-month period. And then
Do you have direction from the council?
I believe so.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, moving on to item number 24, considering approving resolution 2022-68, which extend the terms of the existing commercial cannabis development agreements and temporarily reduces the production fee. Mr. Flora.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members. So City Attorney Jones and myself both worked on this, but I'll take the first shot at it and we'll go from there. So as you know, a requirement of all of the commercial cannabis permits in the city require a development agreement. We have a number of those, as you're aware, and you know, there's been kind of a lot of factors in play over the last few years, but certainly the development of the cannabis industry in the city hasn't really came together as we had initially expected. And I think, you know, a lot of that's market related. We've been trying hard to work with a number of the permit holders, and we have kind of some in progress and some that have stalled out. And, you know, over the last year, gotten requests from almost all of them to consider looking at the development impact fee that is in our development agreement, which our development agreements, not every jurisdiction does it this way, but ours are all the same and require a 5% gross receipts fee for the operation. And so, you know, one of the concerns is that 5% fee is more than what a lot of other jurisdictions are receiving, and it's pushing some of our operators to either operate completely or run some of their operations through a facility in another jurisdiction. You know, we believe that there is a benefit to these operators with jobs, investment in the community, and then of course potentially some tax revenue as a result of that. And I've had a number of conversations about different ways perhaps to structure these agreements that might encourage increased growth in the business, maybe with a sort of fluctuating percentage or so forth. And it's a little difficult to kind of put a point on what might work the best. And so what we're proposing here is that, well, there's some of the agreements that also need an extension. So the way the language in the agreements is that they're good for a certain number of years, and then the council can come back and extend those for 7 years. And so we think that we've kind of tied that together with this action. So, but I believe that in sort of trying to encourage and show the industry that we have some interest in working with them and encourage them to be successful, that looking at temporarily reducing the fee from 5% to 1% for the next 12 months, January 1 through the end of 2023, may accomplish getting those businesses going and growing. And then during that period, I've talked to a policy group that has worked with, you know, a lot of jurisdictions on cannabis policy, taxation policy, that type of thing. And the thought would be that we would bring them in with our permit holders and try to work together on what a long-term sort of structure would look like that would you kind of achieve all of our goals. So that's what I'm recommending. I just felt like that in trying to figure out a solution, we continued to delay and delay. We're not really seeing any progress. And so maybe sort of taking this multiple step approach might be a way to get a little bit more growth going and figure out a longer term solution. And, you know, I would just say, I mean, there's so much movement in policy around this in the state that I think being a little bit flexible will be to our benefit in that regard. So
Any questions from staff? Councilwoman Overton.
Not so much a question, but thank you for bringing this forward, because I have had people come to me on their concerns of the fee that we were charging and how it was really affecting their businesses and for them to function, and how much money. When I realized how much money they spent out between the state and us, it's almost like I'm surprised they're still existing. So, you know, I do agree with this. I do think we need to do something if we want to have continued business. I know they provide jobs for, you know, quite a few people here in our community. Not so much on the taxes, but, you know, I mean, those jobs, everything trickles down, the trickle down effect, I call it. So, so I do think we need to, you know, maybe temporarily do this and just keep a look on it, and as laws change. So.
The other Councilman Kramer, are you?
A question, City Manager Flora. Does this resolution, require, if we extend their license, for them to actually start operating? Because very few of them are operating now, or as you said, they've taken their business to other jurisdictions. Would that require them, if we reduce it to 1%, to come back to Clearlake?
well, I mean, I don't think it doesn't necessarily require them to come back, but with the way the structure's set up, if they stop operating or don't operate for a period of time, we can revoke the permit. So, you know, there are existing options in the development agreement to deal with that.
Well, I think there's a couple of license holders in the room. I look forward to hearing their comments and their public comment.
We have any other questions from staff? All right, we open it to the public. Any public comment on this item? Member man.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for taking this item up for discussion. Yeah, so the industry has definitely adjusted, right? Like we are taxed, and there's a lot of taxes that were conceded to just kind of get the ball rolling on the cannabis industry. And for the most part, most jurisdictions are anywhere from 1 to 2.5% of gross sales, or some sort of facilities, either, 50 cents a square foot up to maybe $2 a square foot. My understanding is also that this is $2 a square foot for facilities, unless your gross receipts exceeds that, and in which case you pay the 1% of gross receipts. So you're always paying, the city is always guaranteed that minimum facilities tax. There's a lot to discuss here, which is with some of the facilities that are maybe not yet up and running. This would certainly be incentive for them to get up and running if that has been an obstacle for them. And it also might be something for the city council to discuss is it worth maybe implementing a facilities fee? The county of Mendocino does something similar. You can either opt out, or even if you opt out, you still pay a minimum base kind of facilities fee. It's a % of your cultivation space. So the city could decide for the projects that are just not up and running, either, fish or cut line, right? So, but you could potentially get some facilities fees for that. So there's a lot to discuss with this topic. The other thing that is a potential for this is if, the state of California has been working with the industry to ensure that there are ways for it to survive. And so in doing this and taking this step, and the county of Lake has done that, other jurisdictions have done these steps to reduce the heavy tax burden. Potentially as we look forward to the equity programs with the state or other programs with the state, it could be a way for the city to recoup some of those tax fees if it implements some of the other programs, grants, equity programs, things like that, that the state offers. The county of Lake was able to pay all of the back taxes that people owed. So let's say there's facilities taxes, and cut me off if I'm at my 3 minutes. Let's say if there's facilities taxes that people have back owed that aren't going anywhere on properties in the county that have been approved, and they owe a couple of years of facilities, theoretically, there could be the ability for the state to help out with that, as they did in the county. So it opens a door to a lot of options. It opens a door to potential more business growth. So I certainly appreciate the conversation, and I urge the council to implement this. I'm a little bit confused as to the development agreement language. So I don't know if that's I would like to pose that question either to City Manager Flora or the council as to exactly what that means. So would it be, if I was in good standing as an operator, does that mean I am extended? So my development agreement would end in 2024 with the 5 years, because we were approved in 18 or 19. Does that mean I'm extended for 7 years, or so like 7 on to the 5, so 12 years, or back?
This may require an attorney's opinion.
I think the initial term was 3 years and it's extended for 7.
Oh, so yeah, I'm almost up.
Yeah.
Okay, I am up. Okay, so it extended like that, but they would have to be in good standing, correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Wait a minute, Aaron, maybe you can answer this question too. What has the state done to their fees?
They've opened the door for numerous applicants to apply for waiving the annual fee. So, ours is $1,500 a year. I know some other, we're a small operator, so other people are a lot more than that. So you can do that. What are the other programs that they have? There's tax incentives. We don't have that many tax things. They reduced the cultivation tax. That's right. They suspended the cultivation tax. So where we used to have to pay $150, the buyer of the product would have to pay $150 a pound. So if somebody's selling it for $300, they're losing $150. So they're only getting $150 when your cost of production is most likely $200 to $300. So they've done that. They reduced the excise tax from, and I feel like there's some other folks in my, Mr. Jennings is chomping at the bit because he's way better at this than I am. So that's what I know is those two things. And I'm going to,
we'll wait for Chris.
Yes, exactly.
All right, do we have any other public comment? Thank you, Aaron.
Good evening, Chris
Good evening.
Jennings, own Lakeside Herbal Solutions, a few other cannabis endeavors in the city. A couple other things the state has done is you can file, all retailers can file for an equity grant with the state, nothing with the city. And with that being said, since the excise tax has changed starting at the beginning of the year, it's no longer, it's really complicated. So the excise tax that's collected on the dispensary level is either 27% of the total price of that wholesale item or 15% of an 80% markup at an arm's length transaction. So the state gets paid immediately no matter what. So the state starting in the beginning of the year now, it's no longer like that. It's going to be excise tax will be 15% of the gross sales total. So I'm seeing kind of configuring about like a 4 to 5% increase on prices at dispensaries, which is just more taxes there. But you can file for an equity grant if you live in a county that is harmed from cannabis, I believe. If you meet certain financial obligations of where you're making, if your business is less than, I believe, 3 million a year in gross sales, you can file for an equity exemption where you get to keep 20% of that excise tax collected for your business and whatnot. So there's a lot of things. It's not just Clearlake, it's not just Lake County, it's the state as a whole. And I don't really want to focus much on what other counties are doing. I always like to try to educate. Part of the reason I think that our cannabis industry is hit so hard is a few of your business owners, you know, Alan runs a business, basically runs a city. So if the IRS came in here and told you, Dirk, that, or Alan, that all your employees weren't tax write-offs and your vehicle wasn't, and you know, your food and whatever else, your basic deductions, you get 280 deductions. We don't get that in cannabis. It's cost production and it's very limited. So like on the retail level, dispensary wise, I can't write off my staff. And I have about a $400,000 to $440,000 a year overhead and payroll. And I believe I get to write off about like 60,000 of that. It's really crazy when it comes down to it. Alan knows a lot of my numbers. You know, we're getting hit hard, really bad. I really don't want to put my full numbers out there, but we're a third less in our sales, which is substantial. And I assure you, any small business in Clearlake doesn't do the kind of sales that we do. So last year where we were at pre-tax, we're at now, it's probably close to $1 million that we're off on our sales. And it's nothing more than just the industry when it comes down to it. And then taxes, like no one really gets it. So everyone, and this is no offense, everyone kind of has their hand out because it was great when it lasted. And then overnight it just completely tanked. You know, a pound of weed, outdoor cannabis is on average $250 a pound. That's where it's at. Indoor cannabis is $900 a pound. The numbers aren't what they used to be. It's a lot of money to operate. You know, when I'm hearing public works talk and they're talking about all the culverts putting in, I want to look at Allenbeck. Did you guys get a 1602 permit from Fish and Game? Did you go through a full sequel now? And I know you guys did. And it's like most people in cannabis, like you become a developer overnight and you learn a lot of things. And so I'm one of the people who have a license going on out in the Betts Lane. I'm putting in a really high-end tissue culture nursery facility. I paid $30,000 in road fees. In fact, I was actually told I was going to be the first one to pay the road fee because the road fees weren't being collected since the ordinance was passed a couple of years ago. I believe Kramer at the time was the one that signed it.
I want to stop you for
Go
a
ahead.
second. Are you in favor of this resolution?
I'm in favor. I just want to educate because I don't think people really get to understand the full business of it.
That's what on the agenda today.
And I'm trying to explain everything else why I'm in favor of this and why it's important.
Okay.
I'm spending the amount of money I'm spending. I paid a school $18,000 for something you're not allowed to be by, but to develop. So yes, I'm in favor of this. I'm just trying to educate, you know, those out there. I pull Joyce's ear often when I see her. Kramer, I've talked with Russ Kramer plenty of times. Alan is always getting emails from me. I don't know if he reads them or not about tax things going on in the world. And I've sat down with him and Aaron. So I'm an open book. I have a lot of knowledge. I know policy. I have really good attorneys that I use. When I don't know, I ask them. And so there's a lot more background to it than like, hey, the industry sucks, we're not doing well, like lower our taxes. There's a lot of things that are pushing us down and suppressing us because at the end of the day, the IRS is taking our money. And that's the biggest, you know, person getting paid when it comes down to it. So definitely in favor. I'm sorry, Mayor, I spent a lot of time talking. I always just try to educate the
appreciate it.
tax stuff so people understand because
He's just doing his job.
No, I
It's,
I get it.
I'm trying to move it, but it's an industry that's in its infancy.
Totally.
Okay, and
it's very viable.
It's going to sort itself out, but it's going to take time.
Absolutely.
That's all the comment I really have.
For sure. And
All right. Thank you, Chris.
thank you.
Do we have anybody on Zoom to? Okay, come ahead.
We used to have lines when we were talking about
Cannabis.
Margaret Garcia, City of Clear Lake, I live. I'm just curious as to how many permits how many businesses have permits that are how many businesses are operating in the City of Clear Lake as far as cannabis?
There are, according to there are 27 permits in the city.
And then operating are
I
like,
don't know.
on one hand, I think you can.
Well, I mean, it's a little harder to parse than that. I mean, there's 27 permits, but we issue a separate permit for different license types. So like, for example, Mr. Jennings has a cultivation permit, a manufacturing permit, and a distribution permit. And that's all at one location. So 3 permits there. He has some of his permits active, but not all of them. I would say active permits in the city right now, yeah, it's probably a handful.
That are active. Okay. And those permits have been open for how long? Have they been not?
I think,
active?
well, it varies. I mean, they applied. I mean, I think the first one was issued in 2017 or 2018.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Do we have anybody on Zoom on this item, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, but in the public here, please come to the podium.
Hi, Dave Hughes, resident of Clear Lake. I understand Mr. Jennings' issue, and he's actively working his licenses, I think. I guess I have a question. I mean, I know of one property that's involved in this. He got his permits in February or I think in February of this year. The property immediately went on the market at 2.5 million. And for the rest of the year, 2022, until the listing expired in the MLS, the price went down to 895. So where I'm going there is we have those people like Mr. Jennings that are producing or trying to, and then we have speculators. And I guess why isn't each individual licensee having to come in and saying, I need more time? I'm working at it. I've started this. Maybe I'm not doing all my licenses, but to automatically give everyone 7 years when they're speculating, it's different to be the developer and it's different to be the speculator. And I think where I have the problem is why can't each individual of the 9 licensees come in here and say, I need more time. Here's what I've done so far, and I need more time. And I don't see that happening. Why give it if they're not doing anything with it? We certainly need the employment. We need the tax dollars. The other thing is, I think this whole cannabis thing statewide, people of the state were convinced because we're going to get all this money. We're going to get money for schools and for this and for that. And now the state's reducing the fees and the taxes. And now the counties are reducing the fees and the taxes. Now we're reducing the fees and the taxes. I mean, you're defeating what encouraged a lot of people to vote for it. And I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't get a break, especially when they're doing what they should be doing. But I don't think we need to give breaks to people that aren't doing what they should be doing. And I think the individual property owners or licensees should come in and ask for that extension, not just give everybody a blanket 7-year extension on it. So,
Thank you. Any other comments here?
Just a quick comment. Again, Bruno Sabatier. Completely different market with unexpected situations that occurred. Your everyday average business does not have to deal with the same taxes, yet we all know that we're hearing how can they continue to survive in the atmosphere that we have post-COVID, during COVID, all of those things. This is a similar situation. I know that we shouldn't be looking at these things, but I think it's important to state when we look at all the major events that are happening in the city of Clearlake, some of the people that are endorsing and making these events possible are our cannabis businesses. They are acting like a wine association in the way that they support our nonprofits and provide resources to those that are trying to provide something back to the community. That again, it's a vastly different environment. And I hope in the most California of ways that you look at the equity grant that is available. They paid their taxes to the state of California, which then the county used to help them pay their local taxes that they couldn't afford to pay. Obviously, something needs to be tweaked and fixed for that not to have to happen that way, because a lot of money probably disappeared in administrative fees. But I hope that you review that, because I think it could help to ensure if there are future issues, which there may be, where again, the higher than anticipated taxes can be dealt with in a different way. Thank you.
Any other comment? We'll bring it back to any comments on Zoom.
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. We have questions from Councilwoman Overton.
Okay, so some points were made. I always laughed at the federal government you pay, but they don't want to acknowledge that this is a legal drug. So I just have to laugh at that one. Out of these businesses that are on this, are they all in operation? Okay, so why would we automatically extend 7 years if they're not even in operation at all? I think we have I do happen to say that I am kind of interested in that point, like what process are they at? Are they continuing? Are they just holding up these permits for what reason? I mean, I've seen this one down here that's been, years now. And as far as I'm concerned, an empty building. And what are they doing with it? I mean, are they going to move forward? What's their plan? I think maybe Dave Hughes might have a point there of why are we giving them all just automatic 7 years?
Well, there's a whole variety of situations with each one of them. Some of the ones down on Olympic, I mean, there are ones operating down there. There's a few that have invested a lot of money in upgrading the building and never completed it. Now, they tell us that part of the issue with finishing the project, with getting investors and all that, is this, the 5%, and with the market, they can't, I don't know if that's true or not for sure. I've asked around, talked to a lot of people. It sounds like that there's probably some truth to that. Now, I mean, that's a different situation than, getting a permit and then deciding to just try and sell it and do nothing with it. There's nothing in our ordinance that precludes you from doing that. Perhaps it's more marketable if there is, a development agreement that's a little bit more competitive. I don't know, but, I mean, we could take that approach and say, okay, we track the 3 years, we come back for each one and extend for 7 years. I mean, to be honest, it's more of a practical thing for staff to have to do that and track all the time. It gets a little complicated when you're talking about 27 permits. But all of that withstanding, if at the end of the day, if we think that permit holder is not making any progress for 12 months, we can pull the permit. So, by extending this for 7 years, it looks like we're just giving them carte blanche now for a full 10 years to do nothing. But we still have the ability, even with this extension, if it looks like they're not doing anything and they have no intention of doing so other than trying to make a profit on the permit, that we can just pull it. And then, they have to start over.
I think, well, okay, so that's good point, because that was one of the things. Is like, I mean, we say 27 permits, but some of these, have 4 or 5 permits. So, 3 permits. So, if they're operating, then of course they need those permits, but the ones that may not have those kind of permits, then, are they operating? Are they just sitting still? And when do you consider pulling a permit? Do you look at it every year? Would you look at it every year? Because I know some of these are just sitting here. And
Yeah,
like you said,
we try to kind of review all of them, a few times a year on where things are. And we're in communication with a lot of them and understand what's happening. I've gotten 2 emails from one of the operators in this meeting about trying to get their stuff going, so there's a lot of things, happening there. So I feel like we have a decent understanding. There are some permit holders. We've certainly struggled with compliance. We have pulled some of the permits. We have revoked them. We've transferred a couple to other operators that are operating now and that type of stuff. So we are trying to work with them to make it successful, but we're not just sitting back and letting them sit on these things for 5 years and do nothing, because that I know that that was a concern, even though I wasn't here, of the council at the time. They didn't want people to come in and speculate on this and just get a permit and then try to flip it and make a buck. The market's not really in a situation where I think that's a super lucrative thing to do now, but we have had some people even that were operating that tried to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure it is not just you're going to get 7 years and it's just going to stay. So, okay. So
Councilman Claffey.
What is the process for extension? So the first term's 3 years. Is there a significant cost or time drain to extend?
Well, with the way it is now for the 7 years, no, really what we have is the resolution that's before you, and the council has the authority to extend those permits just by taking action tonight. So, the issue I raised was, it's a whole different thing to bring a resolution that lists all the permit holders than to, track the 27 permits, which were all approved at a different time, and then just keep track of all that. That's something I hope that we don't have to do at a staff level. But
so prior to this ordinance, what's the extension process? Just so I'm super clear.
The extension process is what's before you tonight. Adopt a resolution. The city council can adopt a resolution extending the 3-year term for an additional 7 years. I'm not sure what the process is beyond that, but
after the 10 years, you'd have to start the whole process over, which would include a new development agreement, which is an ordinance of a first and second reading and action by the planning commission. So that's a more robust process than this initial 10 years.
And just as a little bit of background, again, I wasn't here at the time, but I think my understanding of the thought process at the time was to do the development agreements to allow some of these to move forward, and then to have a discussion about converting the development agreement structure into a tax structure, which is something, a lot of jurisdictions have done. I think that times like this is an argument for having the development agreement or something like that rather than the tax structure, because as market conditions and things change, the council actually has a little bit of flexibility in amending it, where with the tax, on the November ballot, there were probably no less than a dozen jurisdictions in California that adopted double-digit percentage gross receipts tax measures. And if what the industry here is saying is true, it's going to be almost impossible for their, I don't know, maybe that was intentional on their part as a way to, not have cannabis in their community, but look like they were allowing it. But anyway, it's just like they have no flexibility without going back to the voters and amending that. So I guess before that 10-year period is up, we'll have to have that discussion on whether you want to continue with the same sort of format by doing new agreements or convert to some type of tax.
Vice Mayor Prudo.
Thank you. Yeah, I very much support this. I'm grateful for you bringing it to. I want to think back to when Bruno and I were scared to death to come to a city council meeting because the lines were out the door and people wanted our heads on a platter. And there was a reason for that. And we We lost friendships because of the stance we need to take, but we're also having home invasion robberies and people were getting hurt and it was out of control. So we got our arms around it. We took control of it, but times have changed and it's time for us to readjust. I want to thank pretty much everybody in this room, with a couple of exceptions, sat on ad hoc committees for hours and hours as we tried to navigate through this. We came up with an ordinance that others looked at as kind of a diagram for their own ordinances. I just, again, want to thank everybody for being a part of that. But again, it's the whole industry has changed. I do hope sometimes at some point, the federal government will acknowledge and recognize this as an industry and will take appropriate steps because as Mr. Jennings pointed out, it's ridiculous the way that we're having to deal with this. So have my support.
All right, just one clarification. So you say an agreement by reducing the production fee, so that means that they're in business, right?
I guess I'm not 100% sure what you're asking.
If you change the production fees, that you're doing something.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not obligated to pay it until you're, producing something, but you have a certain period of time to produce something or to lose your permit. Yeah.
I need a do-over.
Huh?
I need a do-over.
Okay.
I also want to see the equity grant come back. If we
Okay,
can
yeah,
talk about that.
we do have a draft of that, just so you know, just because of the volume of stuff that we had on this agenda, we're planning on bringing that back to the special meeting that we're going to have
Good.
next week. So we would still have time to get an application in. And then I think Chief White has something he wants to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, it wasn't brought up, but the cannabis industry, specifically Mr. Jennings and another operator, are the only businesses in the city that contribute to the ALPR network, which makes a safer city. And so they've continued that despite the economic challenges. They've never once come back and try to reduce their original commitments. So I think that's important in the context of evaluating this. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. We're all done with this discussion here, Mr. Kramer?
No, if you're done, I'm ready.
All right, we're ready.
It's closed, ma'am.
The meeting is closed.
Public comment.
2-minute comment.
You had your time earlier. We did. We brought it back.
No,
Did we?
I didn't think you formally closed the public comment.
All right, two minutes, ma'am.
I'm not even 2 minutes.
Okay, 1 minute then.
Transparency is a good thing. I'm just curious, the 1% or the 5% we're talking about is a percentage they're going to pay from what they get, right? The product they're going to sell, then they'll pay the 5% or the 1%. Is that right?
If they have $1 million of gross receipts, they pay.
I understand how that works, but I'm saying they're not paying anything until they sell their product. Is that right?
Well,
I mean, as far as the percentage you're talking.
I mean, it depends on they have to, so the way the permit, I mean, they have to do transactions between different permit types. So whenever that transaction happens.
I get that, Ellen. I'm just saying if they're saying they can't open because of this percentage that they haven't even paid yet. It depends on how much they sell. It seems like the whole tenure thing, I don't think these people are going to be moving. I mean, the industry has changed drastically. So I'm not sure where this is going. And you guys aren't making any money from a business that's not open and 20 businesses that are not open. I'm just
Thank you.
making that call. You're welcome.
Okay, now we're closed. David, please. Okay. Okay, this is the last one, okay?
And again, I think
Chris
my
wants to
point-
come back too, okay?
My point is this. Why can't each individual of those 9 come in and say, I want a 7-year extension? Why does the city have to automatically do it? They know when they get their license that it's for so long and the city can extend it. And let each individual licensee of the 9 come in here and say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I've done, here's what I haven't been able to do. Please give me a 7-year extension. Why are we just giving it automatically to everybody? When we know that most of them aren't doing any production.
That isn't what I heard Mr. Flores say.
I thought I heard 2 out of 9. And
I
again,
didn't
I'm
hear
not
that.
against extending. I mean, and I'm not against employment and tax income. But when you're not doing anything except putting your property on the market, maybe that property should be sold to somebody else that'll do something with it.
I think he did say.
That's why they're
that
putting
if
it on
they're
the
Not doing anything, and I think speculation is one of the things, that hold it, they do have the option of revoking.
So why extend it? Then you don't have to revoke it. You don't have to go through that hassle. Let them come in and say, I need more time. Give me another 7 years, or I'm producing, give me another 7 years, or I'm not doing anything, but give me another 7 years. And you say, wait a minute, if you're not doing anything, why do we want to give you 7 more years to do nothing?
Okay.
That's my whole point. Okay.
Thanks. Chris, you have one more? Okay.
I think we aren't having lines of people, but the same.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you all, and Chief, we're going to miss you. And it's unfortunate we lost our sheriff. Now we're losing our chief of police. And at the same time, I just wonder if like the police station, if they had a 3-year operating agreement and they had to come to you every 3 years and ask to be in business, and maybe we should maybe do the same thing with real estate brokers as well. You know, it's just, it's business is business. And I really do appreciate you guys having an open mind and looking at cannabis the way you do, and understanding the challenges getting across, you know, the finish line to be in business. And thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Hi, Aaron.
I absolutely had to clarify something. To be clear, you do have to pay a facilities tax if you don't make any money. We paid, I think we paid 1% of gross, and also before I realized, anyways. The first year we got an extension because our landlord had to put in a water tank. So we're in contact with the city to say we can't operate right now because we need a water tank. So it actually wasn't 2019, it was probably 2020 and then 2020. So probably not 2020. But we still paid that facilities tax each year. Not the first year, but the second year we did. So just to be clear, there is, to answer that question, and there should be, and I fully support the facilities tax because it does help people invest in our city. So just to be clarified. Thank you.
All
sir.
right. Do we have anybody on Zoom with a public comment?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom,
Okay,
Mr.
then we'll
Mayor.
close the public hearing. All right. Councilwoman Overton.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for clarifying, because that was one of the things that we do get the $2 per gross square foot for the project facilities. So thank you. The reason it's easier, if you were listening to what our city manager was saying, was that we have the right, they look at them every 6 months and see if they have the right to pull those permits at any time. It's easier for the people that are operating and less paperwork and staff time to extend these. So the people that are working don't have to keep coming in and bothering our staff, and we don't have to keep going through this paperwork. It's easier to pull the permits when we see that they go by, they see nothing's happening, they come in, they research. It's easier for them to take that on that kind of a basis than it is to constantly have every one of these places coming in for every one of these 27 permits to extend. So I'm in favor of this, and that's why I'm in favor of this.
Okay. Councilman Kramer.
Well said, Councilwoman Overton. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to.
Any other council here?
I didn't see any things raised, so.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Kramer.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-68, read by title only. A resolution of the city of Clearlake extending the term of all current commercial cannabis development agreements by 7 years and temporarily reducing the production fee from 5 to 1% for year 2023.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilwoman Overton.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes with the unanimous vote of the council.
All right, we'll go to city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember. Just a few items, mostly some events. Breakfast with Santa is at the senior center on Saturday at 9:30. So hopefully we got a lot of kids around there. There'll be some activities throughout the day, but the parade starts at 6 o'clock. There'll be a craft festival, and then horse and carriage rides available at Austin Park. I mentioned this earlier, but this is our last regularly scheduled meeting of the year, but due to the need to certify the November election results, we have been told by the county that they will have election results ready for us at 5 p.m. on December 8th. And so using the full 30 days there, and we will be having a special meeting December 8th at 6 p.m. So that primarily as a result of that, but we'll also have a few other business items on that meeting, not a lot, but the mayor and vice mayor for 2023 and so forth will also be on that agenda. December 19th, we're planning to have an event here to recognize Chief White for his service to the city, and sort of a transition of leadership to Lieutenant Hobbs as acting police chief. I did want to mention that our city hall offices will be closed this year between Christmas and New Year's, or the same as normal. And then the only other kind of thing I wanted to mention is that we've been working on for a while is replacing some of our patrol vehicles. We replaced a lot of them a number of years ago, and just kind of a unique situation I wanted to share with the council. So, almost all of our vehicles are Ford Interceptors, and at this point, replacing those with those same type of units is just like they aren't even accepting orders for them. There was a short period of time when they were, but it's like a 12 to 18 month lead time. So anyway, Lieutenant Hobbs has done quite a bit of work on looking into our options, and we're going to be purchasing or going through the lease program for 5 Dodge Durango pursuit vehicles. And there are some benefits. There's actually closer service and whatnot for those, and it's about a 6 to 8 month window to get the units, and then they'll have to be outfitted and so forth. But anyway, wanted to share that with the council. That's my report.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to extend my thanks to Chief White, but I guess we have one more meeting, so you will be there if that's. I'll wait on that one.
Well, on vacation, are you?
Not too many meetings in the last several weeks as far as my committees and things, but the one that I am focused on, and somebody else can talk about tomorrow and the weekend. Next Friday, Lower Lake has a street fair and light parade, and we have, I think, 30 plus vendors, plus I last count about 15 light parade entrants, and including our own CPD. So hopefully we'll see you all there. And that's all I have.
Vice Mayor Purdo.
Mr. Mayor, I have not a lot to report. Just hope people will have a good holiday season. I hope people will dress up their businesses with Christmas lights. We've all been struggling for the past couple of years, and I think it would be great to see that spirit throughout the city. So thank you all for all you do.
Councilman Claffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report. I think I echo Councilmember Purdock's comments, and I know Councilmember Overton is going to share a lot of great events that are coming up, so I'll leave it to you.
Already said most. So I get to share. Is my turn?
Yes, it is, Councilman Overton.
So first up is,
Last.
did you want to talk about the parade and you're talking about the decorating? Isn't there a contest and stuff? You had mentioned this morning that there was a contest. Maybe you can give a little
Well,
detail.
I did, but I didn't want to, step on toes or wear
okay,
my
that's
chamber
fine.
president hat.
Okay, so that's fine. I'm gonna put these to go. I just didn't know if somebody else was gonna say
He's
something.
gonna do a do-over here.
I'll do a do-over, Mayor. Let's go.
Okay,
Thanks.
so we had a great Thanksgiving community dinner, and we had a wonderful volunteers, and I want to thank everybody that came down and volunteered to help serve that. I want to thank the Lions Club who provided the money for our Thanksgiving and our Christmas dinner that we will be doing. We served about 175, we served about 150 at the facility, and we took out between 25 and 30 meals out to people that were in their homes and were unable to come. So we will be doing a Christmas Eve dinner instead of Christmas Day, which I normally do Christmas Day, but because it falls on Sunday, I've been asked to not do it on that day. So it will be on Christmas Eve at this community center from 11 to 2 as we normally do. We have breakfast with Santa on Saturday at 9:30. Please come down, purchase your tickets online at, I don't know which one, downtownclearlake.com. And, it's $10 for the kids to have, and we'll have a thing where they can write their, Santa Claus letters. And we'll have a little box. We'll have some little drawings. So, come down and enjoy, pancakes, eggs, and sausage. And it'll just be a fun time for the kids to be able to sit on Santa's lap. We have a place to take pictures. So it'll be a really great time. So, and I really do hope that, okay, Son, I don't see you. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come down to the thing. Then I have a feeling he won't be at the next meeting. So I want to say thank you very much for, oh, you will. Okay. I was going to say, because I really want to thank you for all the help that you helped us at the senior center. So he's been a great asset. I'm asking him today, well, before you leave. So thank you so much for all your help there. So, and that's all I have to report.
Councilman Kramer has a do-over also.
My do-over is to ask Councilman Claffey to put his Rotary hat on for a moment and talk about an event that Rotary is coming up here.
Mr. Mayor, I have a do-over. So next Saturday, December 10th, we are going to host once again our community Christmas dinner over at the Burns Valley Elementary School. It's a wonderful event. We're going to have food. Santa will be there. After that event, Santa's going to come over to our event the next weekend. He's a busy guy this time of year. There'll be toys for the kids. We're partnering with the senior center to do a warm for the winter. Well, she's just helping, but she does so much to help us and everyone else here in the community. So please come on down December 10th. Thank you.
My do-over is if you have a business in the Clear Lake Oaks, Glen Haven Business Association area, or even down to Spring Valley, Lower Lake, Clear Lake, of course, and Middletown, Hidden Valley, and you put some Christmas lights up, you might want to apply to the Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce. You can go to our website and apply online and become part of the competition for Christmas lights. First prize will be $1,000. Second prize, $500, and third prize, $250, all sponsored by Adventist Health Clear Lake. Again, wanting to really share that Christmas spirit and make it a nice Christmas, hopefully for a bunch of folks. So hopefully that'll help some businesses out.
I don't have much, but I do want to add on to Councilman Claffey. We usually have, we have this year again, Dr. Donda there doing stuff. And we feed about last time we had it non-COVID was I think we feed about over 1,000 people. So if you want to, have some tears and how kids tell what they want from Santa or stuff like that, it can be a pretty emotional event. With that, any future agenda items? If not, we close the public meeting. Thank you very much for coming. We'll have a 5-minute recess. What happened to